I'm Cristi Christensen, and I'm an international yogini, dancer, entrepreneur, and soon-to-be author. I'm on a mission to help set your soul on fire by awakening the energies that you behold so that you can live your biggest, best life. Namaste. I've noticed through my teaching of yoga that there was so much rigidity and that we're trying to put our bodies into these perfect poses to look in this perfect way that it was actually feeding people's neuroses more. And to me, yoga is a liberation practice. It's a practice of opening up and awakening and then manifesting your dreams and grounding them into the reality. So if we're rigid and held tight, how are we going to do that? So I started exploring of what it would be like to add some shaking and freeform movement with music into the practices. So it started really small. I started just exploring and then seeing what was reflected back to me, seeing the shift in the room. How did the energy change when we moved this way or sounded this way? And I got people out of their heads and into their bodies. And from that birthed this idea of deep exhale. I have an amazing partner named Marcus Wyatt. He's a world famous deep house DJ. And at the same time, I had this vision of wanting to get yogis off the mat. He wanted to get the club kids and the burners on the mat. So the idea was we took it from the club to the mat, and then from the mat basically to the club, creating this experience of giving people a safe container without alcohol or drugs to really explore, to be free, to be wild, to not care what they looked like, to really just feel who they are. And then Soulfire came about in terms of like, how do I integrate this yoga dance experience into more of a yoga class? So Soulfire is, like I said, part of my mission is this essence of how do we activate that soul fire desire inside of us and we bring it to the world. And I use different maps to do that. So we use the elemental map, we use the chakra map, we use the kosha map, all the different dimensions of themselves, and then bringing in practices that teach to each of those layers. So from the freeform movement, from the more traditional asana, to the meditations, to the mudras, to all the different subtle body and energy practices, so that if one tool maybe doesn't work for you, I'm gonna have another one to help you get into all the different facets. I was dancing by the time I was 3, and I was training for the Olympics and the sports of both gymnastics and platform diving by the time I was 10 and 16. Devastating injury, I broke my back, which ended my career and my Olympic pursuits. And I fell into a little bit of a depression of like, who am I? Because from that age of 3 all the way up till 24, I was completely driven on this one single goal. Through my recovery process, someone took me to a yoga class, and at that time, yoga was not cool. And I knew nothing of the practice beyond what I'd seen on maybe TV on some like public television network. But I had heard that Madonna was practicing yoga. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And it was through this investigation of okay, being open to trying something new that I fell in love with this other practice. And it wasn't immediate, but what really piqued my curiosity was the focus on the breath. Because in all the training I'd done in my entire life, was there ever a breath by breath integration of every movement of everything we did. And I really could feel how that impacted me, and maybe for the first time connected to this idea of this energetic body, that I wasn't just this physical form trying to put myself into different shapes and do crazy flips and be high up in the air. And I was lucky enough to moved to Los Angeles, California, and I got a job running one of the biggest yoga studios in the world at that time, and got to experience yoga from some of the most amazing teachers, from Shiva Ray to Sean Korn to Max Strom to Saul David Ray, and the list just goes on and on and on. And it was then that I really was like, holy moly, what is this? What is this yoga thing? And I was very good at managing, and I'm very good at business, but I resisted teaching for a very long time. I thought, who am I to offer these teachings? Because it had impacted me so deeply and woke me up in this way that I didn't even know that I was asleep, we could say. So one day, one of my teachers came into my office and said, "You're hiding behind this desk. Like, what are you so afraid of?" And in that moment, I got pissed because I'm like, who are you to tell me? But I got pissed because it hit so deeply and I knew I was hiding. And what I really came to was yoga, the practice for me, opened me up in such a way that my heart felt very exposed in a way that I couldn't even understand. And the idea of teaching was literally like me opening up my chest and allowing you to see what was inside of me. And ironically, I feel like that is what today makes me a great teacher, because I am letting you completely inside, and I'm sharing from this place of my own integrated wisdom and understanding of what I know so far. And that to me is the potency and the power of the transmission of the practice. So about a week or so later, one of our teachers didn't show up to teach their class. And about 25 people were there waiting. And one of the girls at the front desk came into my office and was like, what should we do? Nobody's here. There's not another teacher here. Should I send everybody home with a comp pass? Or do you, and then she said, or do you want to teach? And I was like, And then in that moment, I was just like, okay, now's the time to do it, right? So that's how I taught my very first class. And from that moment, my life just completely changed. And now, however many years later, I'm now traveling the world, sharing yoga to all corners of life and hopefully making a positive and inspiring impact on others.